Hi Flosstube, it's Karen, recovering monogamous stitcher. I am back with another video. This is number 26, and today I'm recording this today on Friday, August 18th, 2023. I hope you've had a good couple weeks for your stitching. I know I have. I have a lot of things to show here today. I'm really excited about it. First of all, welcome if you're back. Thank you, my faithful subscribers and commenters. I appreciate it. I'm happy to see you. Well, I can't see you. I'm happy to have you back again. And if you're new here, you're very welcome. I hope you see something that you enjoy and that you will be inspired to subscribe and like and share and all the things. So let's dive in because I have a bunch of things to do. Now, as I was getting ready today, I do write myself a little lesson plan, as teachers do. And I would get down the page and I think, oh, I forgot, and that has to go at the top. Well, I've already written it in, so I have arrows all over the place here. So I hope this doesn't come out as a jumbled mess, even though that's how my brain was when I put it together. So I'm going to start with questions and comments from last video. And then I'll do some shout outs. So questions about, and don't let me forget, remind me not to forget the shout outs. Questions. Bev asked, what pins do I use for blocking? You remember last time I said I blocked my quilt before it was going to go to the state fair, and I had it on the floor and wet it down, and I used pins to pin into the carpet and the padding. And she wondered, well, what kind of pins do you use? Okay, well, I have several kinds of pins. Only one kind do I use for that. One kind of pin I have is a very fine pin. It's called little house pins. They're glass head pins. These I use for piecing because I can pin my pieces and they don't distort because they're nice and thin and they don't distort, move around, so I can get a nice good point when I'm sewing. And if I drop one of these, I crawl around on the floor and find them because I love them and they're a little expensive. And then these are the old kind of quilting pins I used to use before I discovered those. And I don't think these are even strong enough to do the pinning that I do. I don't know if you can see what they are. And my nails are just a mess. Apologize for that. Okay, so I don't use those either. These are the pins I use. And I have a magnetic dish. I think it came from the automotive section. And I have stainless steel T-pins. They're tall, they're long, they're strong. And these are the ones I use on my long arm to pin, the backing onto the leaders. But this is what I can go down through the quilt, through the carpet and into the padding and get a good connection there, and it's nice and big, and they're stainless. So those are the pins I use for blocking my quilts. Get that out of the way so they don't take a tumble. Sorry. Another question was why don't I use glass on my framed pieces? And well, there are a couple reasons. Number one is it's less expensive. But if I thought my stitching was in any kind of danger, I would put glass on. But I'm in a pet-free home. It's a child-free home, so I don't have to worry about pet hair, dander, kids' schmutz getting on my stuff. So I'm not concerned about that. And they're hung in a very low light area, no direct sun on them at all. So I'm not concerned about needing glass. And the other thing is, what I really love about cross stitch is seeing the texture of the stitches. And I take great care to make sure my X's are always crossed in the same way. And I love seeing that, the way kind of there's a shadow and you can see they're all lined up perfectly. They're all going the same direction. I want to see that, and I think glass might obscure that. I could be wrong because I don't glass, but I think it might obscure it. So I don't glass. And it's personal preference. Those of you who do glass, great, do it. I don't do it. So that's that answer. Okay, someone else asked if I would please show what I put on the back of my framed pieces. When I'm showing them, I refer to it. I pull the card out and refer to it. So I will show you what I do on the backs of my pieces. Now, this is not an original idea from me. I stole this idea directly from Lori Holt. And on the Fat Quarter Shop, they sell Lori Holt's library cards and the envelopes for those library cards. I decided I did not want to have it look like a real library card where it says date due and all that stuff in the lines. I just wanted to use plain index cards. So I also ordered my envelopes from Amazon. So I have plain index cards and the adhesive envelopes from Amazon. So this is Quaker Halloween and Halloween Quaker, sorry. I always say that backwards. So, and this is what I have on the back of mine. So you can see Hobby Lobby has its sticker on there. But I've adhered the envelope, and I have an index card. And now what I put on my index card, I take directly from the information I write in my stitch journal. And this is the system I use. This, of course, also comes from Fat Quarter Shop. I love this system. This is how I know what my oldest whip is, because I can keep track of it. Any changes I make, I mark in here, so I know exactly what I use. So here's Halloween Quaker, and this is what I do. I do it exactly the order that's in here. I put the title, Halloween Quaker, the designer, the date I started, the date I finished, the linen that I used, or Ada, whichever, and the size, the stitch count of the piece. I put the finish size of the piece, the stitch size of the piece, and then my flosses. And sometimes, as you know, I tend to do DMC if it's workable and I think it's a good result. And so some of these I did do the overdyes. You can see I have my Classic Colorworks listed there. Those are the ones I did with Classic Colorworks, and then these are the DMCs I did, and I crossed one out because I put another overdye up there. And then I mark, how am I doing it? 1/1, 2/1, whatever it is. And that's what I put on my card. And at the bottom of the card, I also sign it. I always put my personal signature on it. Now, is this a foolproof system? No, this could get separated from the piece. I understand that, but I think it's a pretty good system, and I'm hoping that the information stays together. Now, there are some times that I do something in addition. Let me show you some of those. Okay, so this is basket sampler. This was Beth Twist and was it Tanya Brockmeyer, I think, collaborated on this. And I did this as remembrance of my special friends, because the little verse is, life is sweeter when shared with friends. Okay, so on the back, I put all that information like I took out of my project book. But in addition, because I had personalized this, on the back, I put the names of the people, because these are just initials. So I put the initial and then the name of the person, and then the 3 who have died, I put the year, D, and then the year that they died. So I have all of that information on this one, and I did that because it was personalized, and I wanted that to stay with the piece. This is another one I personalized. It's My Dear Hearts from Blackbird Designs, and the original had the stitch, I don't remember if it was Alma or Barb. Anyway, they had their name down there, and I didn't want that because I was using this as a remembrance of my grandchildren. So I inserted their initials. There's one there, I can't see in this. There's one there, initial and year of birth, initial, year of birth. Where's our girly girl? Initials, year of birth. And so then I also added that on the card, who it was and the year of their birth, and my signature. I always put my signature on it. And again, this is another one I personalized. This is Christmas Rose from Blackbird Designs, and it said, the chart says Merry Christmas down here, and I didn't want yet another one that said Merry Christmas, and I was personalizing it to remember my mother, and so I put her initials and her birth year and Christmas Rose. She was born Thanksgiving, so a month before Christmas, so I call her the Christmas Rose. And then I put that information on the card also. So after all of the information that I get out of my Stitchy book. I put her name, her birth name, her married name, her birth and death dates, and I also added a note that this is gifted to my daughter, and I have her name on here. So that, I hope, will stay with that picture. So that's what I do on the backs of my framed pieces. Lots of people have other ways of doing it, and I'm sure it works great for them, and so that's great. Okay, some shout outs. Curious Crafters shouted me out. Thanks so much. I think I shouted you out before, and if I didn't, that was derelict duty on my part. They're fun. They're sisters. I think they're in California. And the last one, they were talking about which pieces they would stitch and which ones they would ditch. I think that's the way they said it, stitch or ditch or something like that. But it was fun to listen to them and going back and forth and going through their pieces that they were hem-hawing about. Is it worth it? Do I like it anymore? And all of that. That was fun. There's another brand new Flosstuber I think is really worth a visit. Her name is Beth, and she is stitching in my pajamas. She brings a lot of cross-stitching experience to Flosstube. I think we'll have a lot to learn from her. She was very brave and even showed the very first thing she cross-stitched when she was 10 years old, and she showed how she finished it in a frame and had duct tape on the back holding it in. It was very cute, and she said there are knots on the back. You know, that was a skill she hadn't learned at that point. Oh, that was fun, and she took us through a whole litany of her progression in cross stitch, and really great. And she and her sister collect samplers, and I need to investigate further their, oh, and I didn't note it down. I think it's My Sister's Stitching, or My Sister's Samplers, but it's in the notes on her Flosstube, and I need to investigate that and see what that's all about. I'm looking forward to getting to know Beth better. Welcome to Flosstube, Beth. And Katie, So Tattered. Girl, you are flying. Your numbers are way up there, and good for you. You are just a breath of fresh air to Flosstube, so nice to have you in the community. Katie does both quilting and cross stitch too, so we are kind of kindred spirits. Look forward to getting to know her better. She's been mentioned by all the big names, and so her numbers are really growing, and good for her. Let's see, so those are the ones I wanted to mention this time. Okay, so I did questions, I did shout outs. Okay, let's get on to my stitching. What have I been doing? Well, since here's my book of days, my August book of days. And I have my list of my goals, my plans for the month, and most of them are checked off, but I have a few that are not checked off yet. So anyway, here I am. And you know which one I was really close to finishing. Oh, except the order you're supposed to do it is fully finished object first. So I will show the fully finished object first. This is my August cross stitch camp from Colorado Cross Stitcher. I stitched this from Shepherd's Bush. It's called Stitch, and it's stitched on a plastic, I think it's a plastic canvas bag. Buy the bags at Fat Quarter Shop. They're probably available elsewhere too, but I buy them from Fat Quarter Shop. So I had one that I wanted to experiment with that. That was very new to me. I'd never stitched a Shepherd's Bush, and I'd never stitched with number 5 pearl cotton, and I had never stitched on canvas bag. So I stuck a white in here so you could see better. But here's my finish with stitch. Now I could not get number 5 pearl cotton in every single one of the colors. So I had to kind of take suggestions as to how many strands to use. If you look at the sheep, that is stitched entirely with the number 5 pearl cotton. If you look at the beehive, that is stitched with DMC. And someone had suggested all 6 strands of the DMC would be equivalent to number 5, and I agreed, because when I felt, you know, all 6 strands and then felt the number 5 pearl cotton, it felt the same thickness, and so I thought that was going to be fine. And it would have been fine, except that the 6 strands do not remain twisted like the number 5 pearl cotton does. So they kind of spread out and got kind of fat. Look at those X's. They're kind of fat. When you look at the sheep, they're nice and neat So it was okay, but if I do this kind of thing again, I'm going to search longer and harder to find all of the colors in the number 5 pearl cotton because it's a nicer finish. But if I had done all of it in the DMC, I wouldn't have seen that difference next to each other. I would have been perfectly happy. So there you are. You could do it either way, I think. But to me, mixing it makes it look like some of the stitches are a little sloppy. But project done. Happy I did it. I have another big plastic canvas that I would like to do, and I would like to try the from Hands-On Design stitching theme. I know I showed it before, but I have to figure out how I'm going to do that. It's a bigger bag, it's a bigger pattern too. I have to make sure it'll fit, and then what floss will I use? So anyway, good project. Thank you, Sherry, for another summer stitch camp. That was fun. Let me get this off the table. Okay, finished. You know which one this one is. Miss Jane, she's done, all done. I even have her laced. I've taken her in to be measured for framing. The frame should be in on Monday, so I've laced it. I'm ready to take it back. So let me see if you can see some of the satin stitches. These light blue, that's all satin stitch. Oops, don't knock the camera. And it goes around the strawberries around. And that was the last of the stitching that I did. So she's done. This is my big, really my big accomplishment so far this year. I started her on New Year's Day, and she was my focus. No, she wasn't my focus because she wasn't my oldest whip. She ended up being my focus at one point, but she was my Hands Across the Sea first week of the month Sal. And that really kept me going, having that 1 week every month. So she got as much time as my focus pieces did. And then she became my focus piece. So here's Jane. I would say one last time, except when she's framed, I'll show her again, because, you know, you can't get enough of Jane, right? Okay, and then the other thing I took in to be framed and measured was Baby It's Cold Outside. So this is all laced and ready for its little frame. That should be, of course, in on Monday also. And I stitched this originally as Leanne's Legacy. And so I'm still hem-hawing about what I'm going to now replace it with for Leanne's Legacy. And Barb had suggested in her video that a fall finish would be, a fall piece would be appropriate. So I'm looking through Winds of Autumn. There's so many in there I want to do, but I don't have, there are none of them in there that I could just pick up and do. I have to get something ordered, or I need this, or certain fabric or something. So I'm still thinking about it, but I will do something for Leanne's Legacy and get that posted in honor of Leanne. Okay, whips. Now, okay, the first whip I worked on was Prairie Schooler Santa, and it's in this Santa's Revisited 2, and it's this one, which is 1984. And if I'm not mistaken, I think that's the first one they published. Look at the fancy border on that. The more current ones are like running stitch, which I think is great. But anyway, so this is my next whip. And I'm trying to get this to the point where I can just do some fill-in stitching. Oops, fill-in stitches. So I've made some progress there. That's Prairie Schooler Santa. I'm stitching this on the 18 count Davos that all the models are stitched on. And you have to use the 1/1 method, and I used the Jean Farish method. Her video she has where she demonstrates how you stitch 1/1 so your threads don't get lost under the weave of the thread. So that's Prairie Schooler Santa. Oh, we're gonna have an avalanche somewhere. And I did a new start, because why not? I started Margaret Doyle. This is from Hands Across the Sea. This was an exclusive with Kitten Stitcher, or Shakespeare's Peddler. I'm not sure how it was called, but it was exclusive to her. And Margaret Doyle is just a little girl. It's very sweet. I'm stitching her on, oops, here it is, this fabric kitten stitcher cut specifically for this project. It's Eureka 40 count from Fox and Rabbit. I'm using all DMCs for this, and I'm not going to apologize for wrinkles. I never apologize for wrinkles. I hear a lot of floss tubers just, oh, I didn't have time to iron, or there's so much. I think in my video number 1 or 2, I explained why I don't press until they're all done. Again, I like the texture of the stitches, and if you press and press and press, you're going to flatten them out and they'll never puff back up. That's why I made those project rolls, so that when I complete a piece, I press it, roll it in the project roll, and it never gets folded. And then I take it to the framer, and I don't have to repress it. So that's Margaret Doyle, and that's my speech on pressing or not pressing. And I have her in one of my RBG bags. This one is my inside color was that one, so I did a zipper pull of this, and this is my floss keeper. I used Tiger Lily's pattern, and I made another small one, whoops, because sometimes I needed more. So I just did another small one. So that's an RBG bag, my own, that I made. Okay, that's Margaret Doyle. Oh, I'm gonna have a mess over here. And the next thing I stitched on, another RBG bag, but this one has a different coloring for the inside, and I did a black zipper pull. This is Forget Me Not. This is the one that I messed up badly. The pattern is Modern Folk Embroidery, Forget Me Not, but it has been modified by Katie Strachan for her Simple Harmony box, and I'm doing a Forget Me Not box because I've said this every time. You're getting sick of hearing it probably. 6 generations in the maternal line in my family. Here's, oops, I didn't do a board for this. Here's my new start. I'm, rather than spending time filling the centers of all of them, I'm plotting them out to just reassure myself that yes, indeed, they will fit. This motif down here is the bottommost. So yes, I have plenty. Makes me feel better. So here's how it went with the other one. Let me line it up. Show you. I've done this several times to say, yeah, atta girl. You can see the other one peeking down. You see where I ran short. This time it's right. So, restarted happily. I have ordered my 2 spools of Goblin, Soie Goblin, to replace the 2 spools I used up on the misguided attempt at first. Now that piece won't be wasted. I'll do something with it. Put it in a project bag or a zipper bag or something. I will do something with it. Never fear. I will not throw it away. And at some point I'll get back to it and finish it up. So that's Forget Me Not. Oh, I hesitate to move that over. That pile's gonna fall. Those were my whips. And I had some Stitchy kindness. I had a couple thank you cards from my 3K celebration. The people who won bags sent cards, very sweet. This one was, I think, Pug Mom. No, this was from Denise. Very nice. And I apologize for not showing them earlier. And this is from Pug's mom. And she gave her name too. Very sweet. I appreciate the thank you. See, that's not necessary, but thank you very much. And then I had a surprise Stitchy kindness. There is a member of the Central Kentucky Stitchers, apparently buys tons of bags. One of the girls said she's mortgaged her house so she can buy bags. Well, this person she buys bags from offered to send a project bag for each of our members in our little fledgling little group. It was so kind. I don't have permission to say her name. She's on Facebook, but you know, Melanie, you know who you are. If I have permission to say it and let people know where they can purchase your bags, let me know. Use my email address down below, recoveringmonogamous stitcher@gmail.com. And I'll be happy to give you a little shout out, give you some business. So it's Teresa Kogut fabric, isn't that cute? And she included a zipper pull that she made and a thread bed. Cute. Isn't that sweet? Very nice. I appreciate it very much. I love project bags, my favorite kind with a vinyl front. Nice quality vinyl, just saying. So anyway, Melanie, let me know if I can give you a shout out, help your business in any way. Okay, that was Stitchy Kindness. Plans. Daughter and family are coming to Kentucky next week, and we are planning to go to the state fair a day. The boys will have fun. And Grandma says, you want that state fair food? You go eat it. And Mom, just be quiet. You won't kill them to have some of that junk food one day in their life. So anyway, we're going to go check out the exhibits. Last year we really enjoyed, went to some of the animal exhibits, and we saw a horse competition that was fun to watch. There were special, like, not trotters, pulling little buggies, and it just very cute anyway. And of course then they checked out the cross stitch and the quilts. And Mr. Enabler and I did go on the first day. I do know how I did, but I don't want to say it right now. I will wait until next time. That'll be after the state fair is over. I'll have my projects back, and then I'll talk about it. Now, the comments, though, on state fair was very interesting. I had said I wasn't sure what the judges would consider a sampler, and that was the discussion. Callie in Texas, and she is at Callie Creates. She has a Flosstube, and she's a great one to watch too. Very, very cute. Young stitcher. She's competed in fairs before, and she said that in Texas, the items must have been completed after September of 2022. Now that gives you like 1 year. Well, slightly less than 1 year. And here, it used to be a 3-year window, but after COVID, they expanded it to 5 years because many people, weren't participating in well, there was none in 2020 at all. And let's see, I think not in 2021 either, but then 2022 they had a fair. But so then there were 2 years when people had not been able to submit. So they have a 5-year window now. So that was very interesting. Check your state fair rules because, you may be able to get things in that you didn't think you could. And another stitcher from the state of New York, Kathy, thank you very much for your comment, Kathy. And she said in New York, the definition is, yes, it must have alphabet on it. And she I don't know if I wrote this down correctly. If a sampler must have alphabet and or worded message from commercial source over 25 inches. So in New York, you absolutely must have an alphabet. And the ones I saw had, except one, had letters. Not necessarily arranged in a straight row, alphabet, scattered around in some of them, but there were words and or letters, and there was one that did not have any letters. But since there was no award on it, I don't know if it was disqualified for that or was just in contention but didn't win. No idea. But all the rest had letters. And again, I'll tell you about the results of that next time. That will be September 1st. That will be my 1-year Flosstube anniversary, by the way. And for all my grandiose plans, I'm not going to have time to sew bags and stuff, so I don't know what I'm going to do for that. But we'll figure something out for first year celebration. Okay, and my plans moving forward, I'm going to finish my month's plan. Like I said, I have almost everything. Whoops, almost everything is checked off on my list. I need to go back to my small seasonal, so I'll do Prairie School or Santa some more. I need another day on that. The red sampler, Maria Vincenza Laricia, she has now become my focus piece. Well, I finished a focus piece this month, but I think I'm going to try to get her 7 days this month anyway because she's my focus, and why not? She's a big girl and she needs a lot of time. So those are the only 2 things that are not checked off. That's my plans. Okay, oh, and then whatever days are left over, I'm going to get back to Red Deer Sampler because I just can't wait. And thank you so much, friends, for stopping by. If you were here only for the cross stitch, that's all I'm going to do on the cross stitch. And I will talk about the quilt that's behind me. So if you are leaving us, thank you so much. Have a good 2 stitchy weeks. 2 stitchy weeks, 2 weeks of stitching. And I'll see you next time. So if you're staying for the quilt, I'll talk about this quilt, and I have to figure out how I'm going to do this. Sorry, I have to slide here. I have pictures and photograph, audio visuals here. Okay, you remember last time I had said at first when I thought I was showing crossroads. I was not. I was showing star-crossed. And I was completely mixed up in my head because that's how I had labeled that quilt. I labeled it crossroads, and it was not crossroads. It was star-crossed. So I had to edit my, label. Wait a minute, where are my pictures here? Okay, I edited my label. Oops, don't turn that way. Okay. I had to cross it out and write star-crossed. So, and that was a 2018 finish. And let me show you how, that's my favorite, if it's not a show quilt, that's my favorite simple label. I take a 6-inch or 6.5-inch white fabric, I fold it diagonally, and when I'm going to be doing my binding, I baste it into a corner. I write on it first. I baste it into a corner, sew on my binding, and then I just hand whip stitch across the top. Very simple label. It doesn't take a lot of materials or fancy thought. Now, if I'm doing a show quilt, I might do something fancier, which I have done on stuff. But anyway, so that's my simple label. Now, let me show you what I used for this. And I had this discussion with Susan Standley. In the winter, I was in Florida, and she was talking about marking on labels and marking on, and I didn't have these with me, so I couldn't show it. But this is what I now use to do my labels. It's a Pentel gel roller for fabric. It's made especially for fabric. I saw this on the quilt show with Alex Anderson and Ricky Tins. Their guest was Mark Lipinski, and he was demonstrating how he uses this on quilts. And he will actually write, like a piece of a fabric that's like the size of a piece of paper, and he'll write the history of it. This was made by so-and-so for so-and-so, and when, and whatever he knows about it. And then he sews that onto the back of a quilt. Now, I have a couple in my quilt closet here from my grandmother, and I have not done that yet. The quilt she made for my husband and I wedding gift, the one she made for me when she made them, I told you about I wanted a pink quilt, and she put blue in it, and I said, she ruined it. But anyway, I need to get those labeled because one more generation and no one's going to know what those quilts are, where they came from, who they're about. So this is my favorite marker now. I do have other things I have used to mark, and I have a box, permanent fabric markers, and these are stored well away from where I have my temporary marks, like my little chalk pencils or my friction pens or anything else I mark, well away so I do not accidentally pick up the wrong thing. But there are various things. These are brush Pigmas, and if you remember the Audubon Christmas with all the birds, these were the pens I used for some of the detail marking. They have like a brush tip, an actual brush tip. I don't know if I can show you. See, it's a little brush tip. So those are handy to have for art quilts. Or you could use them to make a fancy label also. Another thing I have, these are the Micron fine tips. This is what I used to use, but they're very hard to write with. If you want to do a cursive, they drag, they catch in the threads, you know, there's such a fine point. I find them difficult to use, so I don't use them for labels anymore. I use the Pentel, but they're very good for long arm quilters. If you had a wobble in your quilting, and so you're quilting with white thread and you wobbled and you went on to the black piece or the red piece or whatever, take one of these and just do on those little stitches, disappear. Just letting you know. I did that even on my best of show. I did that. Shh, don't tell. So anyway, a lot of good permanent fabric markers, but as I say, Pentel gel roller for fabric. I got it on Amazon. I got a whole box of them. They'll last me forever and a day. How many are in there? Maybe a dozen, I don't know. But I've not, and I just randomly take one out and use it and put it back. So that's how I mark. Okay, the quilt. This is Crossroads Quilts. This was from Fat Quarter Shop and Fig Tree. This was a to raise money for March of Dimes, and this was apparently before they started doing Make-A-Wish. 2016. This started in January 2016. The last pattern came out in September 2016, and mine is dated 2016, so I did finish it that year. Now, let me show you a picture. I took a picture here of the back, because this has a pieced back. Okay, and I can't flip it over and show you, so I'll show you the picture here. Okay, so there was a pieced center to the backing, and the yellow flowered is a Fig Tree fabric that I had from a different fabric line of hers. It was of hers, but it was an older fabric. And then I had to use some, I think I used her cream. She doesn't use a white, it's a cream color, and I had some that I had to add at the top and bottom to make it big enough for the back. So that's the back. And, okay, so here we go. Awkward transition again. And I did not show my haul. Oh my gosh! I sent everybody on their way. I'll finish the quilt and then I'll show haul if you want to hang around. Okay, unplug. Okay, so Crossroads, designed by Joanna Figueroa, and it was produced. The kit was produced through Fat Quarter Shop, and they were monthly patterns that came out. I think 1 month was the houses, 1 month was the this. I think this block is why it's called Crossroads, and it goes, you know, in their houses, and I don't remember what this is was called. Various different blocks. But anyway, it's Fig Tree Company palette, which I love, you know. The quilting was pantograph. This was early on in my long arm career, and it was a pantograph, but it is feathers. And does that show? Yeah, it's feathers. And the feathers go, no, I started on this side. The feathers go all across. And then you bring the machine back and you line it, get it lined up so it fits in, it nests in, and then you go another row across, and a nice little thread there. So that was this one. So the quilting is edge to edge. It goes over the borders. There's no special border design. It's all just the same pantograph all the way. It's a nice design. Very nice. Okay, I don't know what else there is to say about this. I can tell you that before I put my fat thumb in front of the camera, The pantograph was called Deja Vu. Oops, sorry, didn't mean to get my face there. Deja Vu, and it is from Elements, Urban Elements. What was it called? Urban Elements with a Z. Urban Elements. There. Okay, well now, do I do haul or do I wait until next time? I sent all the cross stitchers off, so I think I'll just wait till next time. I'm so sorry. Once again, mess up. So anyway, we'll end it here. Have a good 2 weeks of stitching, and I'll see you on September 1st. Bye-bye. Did it turn off? No, it didn't turn